My name is Lucan Way. I'm a professor of political science at the University of Toronto. And in 2022, my co-author Steven Levitsky and I wrote the book Revolution and Dictatorship, which is about some of the most durable dictatorships in modern history. And what makes these are the Soviet Union, Communist China, Cuba, uh, and others, Vietnam. And what makes these dictatorships fascinating is two levels. At one level, they have survived some of the most severe crises. China survived a massive famine that cost tens of millions of lives. The Soviet Union survived the Nazi invasion. Uh, Cuba has survived sort of near constant quasi warfare with the United States over many decades and many presidents. But what makes these dictatorships interesting is that they're not just durable, but that they emerged at incredibly weak. And the initial revolutionary leaders were in many ways irrational. Um, and it's this irrationality that ultimately contributed to their durability. Meaning that when they came to power, when Lenin came to power in October of 1917, he barely controlled a few couches in the capital, Petrograd. And so most dictators, when they come to power like that, they sort of try to build alliances with other powerful actors. But Lenin declared a war on everyone, declared an end to private property, and basically invited civil war in Russia. And it's precisely this conflict, this attack on the powerful actors that ultimately contributed to building an incredibly strong Soviet regime. So basically, we argue that sort of revolutionary actors like Khomeini in Iran, they come to power, they basically incite violence. It's like if I went to a bar and I'm, like this, not very strong, and I started punching the most powerful guy in the bar, started a fight, and and if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And this fight, this early battle, did three things. It created three pillars of durable autocracy. The first is it created a highly cohesive revolutionary elite leadership, which was, you know, in which they would sort of remain tightly cohesive regardless of the threats. Second, they created a very powerful, large, and powerful and loyal army. This was because revolution and dictatorships, in contrast to most authoritarian regimes, created their own military from scratch. Most dictatorships inherit militaries and therefore have to worry about a coup. Whereas in revolutionary dictatorships like in China and the Soviet Union, they basically the military and the ruling party were very tightly fused, so they didn't suffer the kind of coups that most dictatorships suffer. And finally, these counter-revolutionary wars that out of which revolutionary dictatorships emerged wiped out everything, all other sources of power, and so basically you had this incredibly unified dictatorship that was backed by a very powerful and loyal army, which created these sort of almost these uniquely powerful dictatorships. China is still with us, um, and others that survived, on average, almost three times as long as the average dictatorship. So that's what the book is about. And some of these are still with us. We still have China. Um, Russia is a different case. Putin, he did not emerge out of revolutionary dictatorship, but Putin still relies on sort of two aspects of 1917 of the Russian Revolution that sort of bolster his power. The first is an incredibly strong security apparatus, the KGB, which is now called the FSB in Russia, which is very much the basis of Putin's power. But also the fact he relies on the fact that the Soviet Union, the revolutionary dictatorship in the Soviet Union, wiped out all forms of civil society. So there was really no societal forces to challenge the Russian regime today, which is partly why democracy in Russia is so weak. So, this is still today, uh, countries like Iran, China, other cases that people are probably less familiar with, like Eritrea, Rwanda. These are revolutionary regimes which continue to challenge the liberal order and remain robust.